Who would win in a high-stakes poker game? A group of professionals who have earned millions of dollars from playing, or a bunch of YouTubers? Well, MrBeast proved everyone wrong when he netted over $400,000 against one of the most elite poker players on the planet. Usually known for giving away huge sums of money, on this occasion, MrBeast was winning it himself. So how did he manage to upset the pros at their own game? In this first hand, MrBeast came up against Phil Hellmuth, the poker brat, known for his tantrums. Phil is often the butt of the joke at the poker table, but most other professionals recognize that he's one of the best of all time. Fortunately for MrBeast, this wasn't his first run-in with Phil. Earlier in the year, they clashed in a high-stakes cash game. Phil posted a photo from the occasion where he complained about how MrBeast beat him with a weaker hand. By the end of the Hustler stream, Phil would again be complaining about how lucky MrBeast was running.
So in my case, would you have folded?
I would have folded, and I wish you would have folded for the show-wise. Because we need MrBeast.
To open up the hand, MrBeast 3-bets to 5K, with 3 poker pros Tom Dwan, Phil Hellmuth, and Alan Keating calling behind to see the flop. Phil is looking pretty relaxed, leaning back in his chair, and as he flops to the top pair with 2 jacks, he only gets more confident. MrBeast puts 10K into the pot. Since Phil only has a little more than 7K left in his stack, he moves all in. MrBeast is behind with a lower pair up until the river, where his single heart makes him a flush, but he doesn't seem to realize this. After both players, the board runs out. Neither have seen each other's hands yet. MrBeast jokingly offers to split the pot, saying he's got nothing. But when he turns his cards over, the rest of the table tells he's made a flush on the river.
You have a flush, dude.
You have a flush, bro.
Oh, even lucky.
Winning the hand comfortably. Phil is completely bamboozled. He is holding 2 pairs, jacks and queens. And whether intentional or not, MrBeast's lack of awareness is infuriating for a poker pro. Phil can't handle it and gets up from the table to vent. Rubbing salt in the wound, MrBeast told Phil after the hand,
Yeah, no, you could have just took the money and I never would have noticed.
it wasn't the only time MrBeast and the poker brat went head-to-head that evening. In another hand, Phil limps in under the gun with pocket 9s. Slime raises to 2,400, which is re-raised to 4,800 by XQC. And MrBeast, Alan, and Phil Hellmuth come along to see a flop. The flop comes Queen, 10, King, giving MrBeast top pair. But drawing first straight with a pocket pair, Hellmuth likes his chances. He calls a 10K bet to face down MrBeast. This pot is sitting at $45,000. Neither improves their hand after the river, so MrBeast has to think about how much value he can get from Phil for 2,500. Impressively, it works perfectly, and unsurprisingly, Phil is left steaming.
What in the is doing?
He can't believe that he's been outplayed by a YouTuber. This group of internet stars are treated to a front row show to a famous Phil Hellmuth meltdown.
Why don't you shut up?
And it wasn't the last time the two played together. Later in the year, they played alongside one another in an episode of Poker After Dark, where MrBeast lasted less than 10 minutes, going all in against Hellmuth with a straight draw against Phil's pocket aces in his first hand and busting. Up next, MrBeast had to take out 2 opponents at once. One of them was Hellmuth, who MrBeast was more than familiar by now. The other was Alexandra Botez, another YouTuber who's been making waves to prove herself on the professional scene recently. Hellmuth comes in strong with a 3-bet pre-flop. He's holding pocket queens and he's been waiting for a spot like this. Unfortunately, the timing couldn't have been worse. Botez chooses now to 4-bet, bringing the price to play up to 30K. Usually her instincts are good, but with pocket 10s it's a pretty hard hand to lay down. Her odds are low against Phil's queens. The real problem for Phil is MrBeast, who quietly calls the 30K.
Call 30,000.
MrBeast has them both dominated with pocket kings, the second best starting hand possible. It would take a miracle for Phil to lay down his queens here. There's no reason for him to think that he doesn't have the best hand, and he calls to make the pot 91,000. The flop misses everybody. MrBeast is still well ahead. He has an 84% chance of taking the hand, but an ace is a scary card for him. It means that any starting hand with an ace has already beaten his queens. Phil and Botez already put in 30,000 without much hesitation, so it's clear they have strong hands. Phil uses a 5K bet to test the waters. MrBeast and Botez call behind, leaving everyone guessing if anybody has an ace. Phil bets again on the turn, a little under 10% of the pot, and the river doesn't improve anyone's luck either. The final round is checked the whole way through, and MrBeast is kicking himself for not getting any more money out of Hellmuth or Botez. Fortunately, once again, Hellmuth is fuming as his queens are coolered. Next up, MrBeast goes up against the poker pro Alan Keating in a series of hands. Keating is a man who has built up a reputation as a fearless high-stakes player.
You know, poker for me is, I've derived a lot of friendships and that have led to a lot of amazing experiences, so that's the priority to me.
But looking down at Queen, 3 offsuit, there is a lot of work for MrBeast to do if he wants to scoop up this pot. Keating raises it to 10K with an ace and 9 of diamonds. MrBeast is the only other player to accept the bet, taking it to the flop. Incredibly, MrBeast makes a pair of 3s, now much stronger than Keating's suited ace 9. Even better for MrBeast, Keating is drawing dead. There's no way he can make a flush now. His only hope is to make a pair of aces or 9s. Keating forces MrBeast to make a decision by raising to $40,000, effectively putting the YouTuber all in. But having already committed more more than a quarter of his stack, MrBeast is happy to risk the rest. The turn card is an ace, which seems like good news for Keating since it makes him top pair. Now he is 3-1 favored over MrBeast, and he is taking down the pot, first blood against the YouTuber. But MrBeast wasn't going to forget about that. Later in the stream, the two went to battle again twice. The final time would end in a pot size of over $1 million.
He loses this, he might be down $1 million.
In the next hand between the two, MrBeast looked down at a pocket pair of queens and raised to 5k pre-flop. Keating calls behind with suited connectors, the 6 and 8 of clubs. It's a versatile hand that could land in pairs, a flush, or a straight. The flop pairs is 6s, but it makes MrBeast trips. Two other players call behind, but when Keating fires off another 5k, the two step out of the way, leaving only MrBeast. Next, it's MrBeast's turn to go on the attack, firing off 10k, which Keating calls. The river card couldn't be better for MrBeast. Amazingly, a second queen comes, giving MrBeast quads, one of the best hands in poker. His money is safe. The only questions now are how much he can extract from Keating and whether the poker pro will be able to sniff out a monster hand. MrBeast pushes 40k forward, hoping that he won't scare away his opponent. Thinking back to his earlier hand, he knows that MrBeast's range is massive. This YouTuber is not a type player or theory-based player like poker pros. He has gone the distance with much worse hands, and the likelihood of quads is tiny. If it is a bluff, then Keating's hero call will be an amazing play. Ludwig, to MrBeast's left, gets a peek at the quad hand, and Keating looks over to get a read off of his face. Unfortunately, Ludwig's poker face is unbreakable. Keating finally decides to throw caution to the wind and call, hoping MrBeast is bluffing. Then he gets the bad news. MrBeast has just won a $130,000 pot.
Oh my god, I wish you had something crazy like...
Somehow Keating still has a smile on his face, but to rub salt in the wound, MrBeast even asked the table whether or not quads is the best hand in poker.
Isn't quads the best hand?
He knew it was good, but he didn't even know how good. MrBeast made sure that Keating wouldn't leave the game without having one final humiliation. In the final hand of the night, Keating went all in. After a grueling 8-hour stream, he was almost $1 million down and hoping to double up his money before the night was over. MrBeast accepted the gamble, ensuring that one of them would be going out with a bang. And MrBeast was in a pretty comfortable position looking down at pocket kings. Keating's cards are still a mystery hidden from the graphics. The board runs out. 10, 4, Jack, Jack, 2. There's no chance of a flush or straight, which means that Keating will need a jack to salvage something from the night. MrBeast chose his kings. Keating learns that his night will end $1.1 million in the red. Meanwhile, MrBeast ended the night $438,900 up.
Okay, GG.
And while one poker pro, Tom Dwan, made a small profit, Phil Hellmuth was down almost 100k, and Alan Keating took a battering, losing over $1.1 million in one session. It was definitely a night to remember YouTubers and one to forget for poker professionals.